This is not medical advice. I am not a medical practitioner of any kind. I am just sharing my own experiences for those who may be curious. Maybe you're on antidepressants, or maybe you are considering taking antidepressants yourself and wonder what someone else's experience might be like. Trigger warning regarding self-harm, intrusive thoughts, violent thoughts, feelings. I do mention those things. I have been on antidepressants for 10 years. Since I was 11 years old, possibly younger, I have experienced symptoms of depression. My mind would be in a really dark place, and I would either be really numb or sometimes just in a great deal of pain. I felt lonely, misunderstood, detached from reality, and in general just had a really nihilistic worldview. I coped by sleeping all day, crying a lot, listening to music, and writing in my diary, but that was not enough. And eventually I was seeing a school counselor, a youth worker, a psychiatrist, and another counselor outside of school. The psychiatrist that I was seeing, after initial evaluation, he initially did not want to give me any medication. He told me that he did not like to give medication to young people, kids, young people, unless it was absolutely necessary, which looking back, I can understand and respect that. I was around 15, 16 years old, but I also remember feeling like he didn't really care about me and he wasn't able to empathize or understand the feelings that I was feeling. It's just that it can feel very cold and lonely when you're in a setting trying to communicate how you're feeling and struggling, and that comes out as a yes or no type of answer or a rate this from 1 to 10. He also forgot about a couple of appointments that I'd had with him and did not express any remorse about that, so that was also something that did not have me feeling great. Anyway, eventually after a couple of appointments, he did come to the conclusion that it would be of benefit to me to be on antidepressants. I remember the moment where he looked at me and he said, "You have depression." And I was like, "No kidding. That's what I've been trying to tell you." I also experienced social anxiety, and the medication that he prescribed me was meant to help with that as well. He started me off on 25 milligrams of sertraline, which did not do anything that I noticed. I didn't notice a difference. So we increased that to 50 milligrams, and that is what I had continued on for the next 5 or 6 years. In the beginning, one of my family members did not like the idea of me being on medication and actually told me to do something that is honestly dangerous and should not be done, and that no doctor in their right mind would tell you to do this. This family member didn't have any hurtful intentions, very much the opposite, but they were just very ill-informed. This family member told me, "Once you run out of this first bottle of medication, stop taking it, and instead every morning take 1 Flintstones vitamin." You know those Flintstones children's vitamins? Those ones? She told me to take 1 of those every morning instead of the antidepressant medication, in the hopes that it would have some kind of placebo effect to prove that I didn't need to be on medication, that it was all in my head, it was all an attitude. It did not work, and I felt horrible. Eventually my youth worker found that out, that was going on for a couple of weeks, that I was just like popping Flintstones vitamins, and maybe that's also why I went back to not feeling well. And this was within, the first month or so of me taking the medication. And she was like, "Oh no, that's not good. Need to fix that." So I continued back onto the actual medication, and this family member learned that yes, medication is helpful for me. So I was managing pretty well for the next, again, 5 or 6 years. I was all right. And then when I was 22, in my 4th or 5th year of university, I think it was my 4th year, I'm not sure, I don't remember. I was in the middle of class and we were asked to divide into groups that we'd create. And I just remember the familiar feeling of my face, my skin being so hot, and just feeling like I was gonna cry, and feeling so alone and detached from everybody and from my surroundings. And I felt really numb, but at the same time, I wanted to smash windows and to hurt myself and to do violent things. I just felt like obviously I couldn't be in that space, in that moment, in that room, in that classroom. And I was so overwhelmed. And so I just grabbed my stuff and I left. And I remember walking out of the school thinking, I'm never coming back here again. I was, yeah. And the months leading up to that, I was experiencing an increase in social anxiety and in having some dark thoughts and feelings. It was almost the end of the semester, heading into the winter time, and so the end of that class. And so I thought, yeah, I'm never coming back. So I emailed my professor letting them know I'm having a mental breakdown of some kind. I'm not coming back for the last week of school. And this professor was very understanding and sympathetic, although they did also request me to provide a doctor's note, which at the time was frustrating for me because I just wanted to curl up and be by myself. And I thought to myself, I'm an adult, I know what I'm feeling, why do I have to go and get this doctor's note to provide to this person to prove what I'm experiencing? But it makes sense at that time to go see a doctor anyway. So I did, and I got the doctor's note. I chatted with this doctor and they increased my dosage of medication up to 75 milligrams. I'd been taking 50 milligrams up to that point. They increased it to 75. So over the next few weeks, I began to feel better. The semester had basically ended by that point, and I was no longer, in taking classes. It was a winter break, and so I do associate my feeling better also probably to my environment. I do attribute the feeling better to the medication. At the same time, I can't deny that the environment played a part and some circumstances, situations played a part in how I was feeling. The side effects that I have experienced have included fatigue, just a general tiredness, but I was already so used to feeling completely exhausted, along with a whole bunch of other stuff, a whole bunch of other negative, icky feelings, horrible feelings. In addition to that, exhaustedness being unmedicated, so feeling tired from the medication wasn't such an issue for me. I also have experienced over the years more of a difficulty concentrating and kind of a brain fog situation. I don't know if that is from the medication or not, but I think that it could be. I do also notice that if I miss a dose of medication, if I forget to take it, as I take it at night before I go to bed, and then the next day, if I had missed taking my dose of medication the night before, I will have a headache and I will feel nauseous. There have been times during the day where I start to feel like I'm feeling kind of nauseous and headachy, and then I remember the night before, oh, I actually forgot to take my medication. So that's something that happens, and also a good reason to encourage myself, remember to take your medication. It is a habit by now, but things happen. So a couple of years ago, I did try to quit sertraline cold turkey immediately. Again, this is not something that you should be doing. This is dangerous. There is no doctor I can think of who would say, hey, just stop taking your medication, see what happens. Don't do that, but I did. And that was because I thought to myself, I've been taking it for a while, I am feeling okay, and maybe I want to save money by not paying for the medication that I'm on. That is not a reason that is justifiable for me because I can afford my medication and I'm very grateful for that. So that was not a good reason. So I just stopped taking my medication without consulting a doctor. Again, don't do that. Like the Flintstone vitamin situation, it did not work. I felt horrible again. Intrusive thoughts, very dark, cold place, detached from reality, quite numb. Once I realized that it was not working, I started taking my medication again, and I felt stable and okay, and I was good to proceed with life. At the end of last year, I did speak with my doctor because I was curious about decreasing my dosage, seeing what that would do if I could feel okay. And I did decrease from 75 milligrams to 50 milligrams. And I have been taking that since. I have been doing okay depression-wise. I have been able to experience joy and to function overall fairly well on a consistent basis. I will mention that during my first year on antidepressants as a teenager, I did have a support system of people. I was in therapy, getting counseling. I was in some kind of youth group thingy. Having that help from other people, that therapy did contribute to my feeling better. I don't think that the medication itself is the only thing that saved me at that time, but it was something that did help, and it did make a big difference, and I think it was very important that I had started taking it. Some people on medication may build a tolerance to it over time, from what I have heard. As I mentioned, there have been times where I did choose to increase my dosage on a doctor's advice and also decrease my dosage. So in my experience, what I have needed has fluctuated. If you are interested in changing your medication, increasing your dosage, reducing your dosage, consult a doctor first. Speak with a medical professional. Don't do that alone, would be my advice based on my experience if I were to give advice. I don't think that medication is the end-all, be-all solution to the mental health challenges that I experience, or the ultimate answer to my well-being. But I do believe that the medication has helped me over the past 10 years to be able to have the capacity to access joy and to feel stable in reality. I do still experience challenges. I do still occasionally have a panic attack, experience anxiety, occasionally other symptoms of depression, but not nearly as much as when I have been without sertraline. Everybody is different, but it's something that's helping me.